Hello again, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's still Wednesday, April 26th, and I shut down that other video and got to thinking about a couple more stories I'd like to share with you. So we're still at the same spot by the golf course. Still got that same pretty backdrop. I'm going to spin you around. I notice there's a lot of glare through the windshield on that other one, so I'm going to stick the camera out the window here a little bit and show you what's actually in front of me. Actually, I'll swing it around inside here so we don't get any wind noise. But over the top of that gray house, and you see another hill in the background, and I live on that hill, but back down about, 3/4 of a mile or something to the right. Then the park is down that way a little bit. But had some more motorcycle stories I wanted to share with you. I'm not sure exactly when I'll get this loaded. Might load it this afternoon. I might wait a while. But when you travel on the motorcycle very much, there's a lot of it's good, but of course you get into bad weather, and a lot of times you tend to remember the bad things instead of the good things. But I got 3 magical moments I want to tell you about. And the first one actually occurred in northwest New Mexico, and I'd planned a little ride, go riding back roads. I always like to stay off the interstates if I can. But I was on a little county road east of Raton, New Mexico, and that'd be an extreme northeastern New Mexico. And the little paved road I was on run down the bottom of a little canyon, and it had bluffs on either side of it. And it was just a little 2-lane road, and it had fencing on both sides. And as I'm riding down there, I'm all by myself, of course, and as riding down there, I see a big cloud of dust up ahead of me, and I think, what in the world could that be? And I got a little closer, and it was a whole bunch of cattle and a bunch of cowboys on horses, and they were moving the cattle down the road from one pasture to another. So there wasn't really any place for me to go, so I was getting ready to turn around and go the other way, and one of the cowboys rode up to me on his horse, and he says, just park right here in the middle and shut your motor off, and I'll stay with you, and it'll be fine. And so I did that, and he and I sat there and talked, and the other cowboys ended up driving probably 1,000 head of cattle all the way around us. I could have reached out and touched them on either side. And all the while, that cowboy and the horse was on my left side, and I'm sitting in the middle of the road on my motorcycle with my feet planted on the ground and just watching this little tidbit of the Old West, little taste of it, go on by. You can smell the cattle, you can smell the leather on the horses, and it was just all in all, it was kind of an unforgettable, magical moment. And it's something I can, it puts a smile on my face every time I think about that happening. And there's a lot of people who pay a lot of money to be able to experience that. And I was able to get that experience for nothing out in rural New Mexico one day. The second one I want to tell you about, it occurred, probably 150 miles north of there. It was up in southern Colorado. And I'd stayed overnight just outside of Colorado Springs, a little town called Manitou Springs. And I was riding up the mountain through Woodland Park up towards Salida, Colorado. And that's when you first get up into the front range of the Rocky Mountains, that's where you're at. And once again, it was a beautiful day. It was the middle of the summer. Not a cloud in the sky, no dust in the air. The sky was that cobalt blue color that you only get up high in the mountains. And riding along there by myself, no traffic. I happened to look up, and flying here, it wasn't really very high. I don't know how high it could have been, but here was a KC-135 tanker, Air Force tanker, and it was refueling a big 4-engine airplane. And I tell you, folks, it was painted to look like Air Force One. Now, I don't know if it was Air Force One. I don't know if the president was on board that. But it was one of those type of planes. I'm sure the Air Force doesn't have a whole lot of them that have aerial refueling capability. But I looked up there, and just big as life, here's these 2 airplanes refueling, flying over my head. And they weren't very high. They were probably, maybe flying 20,000 feet, but I was already up around 10. So they were flying east to west. And the aerial refueler was refueling a plane that sure enough looked like Air Force One to me. And that was pretty cool to see. And the third one I'll tell you is a little more complicated. The first video I shot was running a little bit long. I decided to break it into 2 videos. But I'd been out for about a week and riding all up and down over the mountain passes in Colorado. And I was up off of I-70 west of Denver, up on top of the mountain. There's a little town called Idaho Springs. And I'd stayed overnight in a motel up there. And by this time, I'd been caught in the rain 2-3 times. And of course, when you're traveling on a motorcycle, you don't have a lot of clothes with you. And so it turned out everything I had was dirty. And so I decided, well, I'm here at this little town, maybe I ought to go find a laundromat. So it was a pretty day. It was nice and warm. And so I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get all my clothes washed and still have something to wear. And this is something just a crazy young guy will do. And I was kind of a crazy young guy at the time. I got thinking to myself, it's been going to be years before I ever get back in this town. Nobody here knows me. And so I packed all my clothes. I put on my bathing suit and tennis shoes. And I rode my motorcycle from the motel down to the laundromat. And I sat there in the laundromat while I washed and dried everything I had with me except my bathing suit. And sat there in the sun outside the laundromat waiting for my clothes to get done. And sure enough, everything got taken care of. It wasn't a problem. And every single thing I owned except the bathing suit I was wearing was clean. And I was good to stay out for about another week. So the next morning, I had another adventure from that same place. The highest road in North America is a road up a mountain called Mount Evans, which is just outside of Idaho Springs. And the top of Mount Evans is at 14,260 feet. And it's 160 feet taller than Pikes Peak. Pikes Peak at the time wasn't paved, but this road up Mount Evans was paved all the way to the top. And so I decided to go up Mount Evans. I wanted to be able to say that I rode my motorcycle up the highest road in North America by elevation. So I found the road. I'm heading up there, and first thing that happens is a couple of mountain goats, the white, shaggy-haired mountain goats with black horns. They come walking across right in front of me. I actually had to slow down and keep from hitting them. And I was listening to a radio station out of Denver at the time, and all of a sudden they broke in with a news thing that they were working a 3-alarm warehouse fire in the south side of Denver. And about shortly after that, I broke up above the timberline, and all of a sudden I had the whole Great Plains spread out behind me to the east. And I looked over and I could see the buildings at Denver, and I could see the smoke coming up from that warehouse fire they were talking about. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was probably 50 miles away and I could see it. And I rode the rest of the way up the top of that mountain, and the motorcycle did just fine. And if you've ever been up on top of Mount Evans, the top of it's a parking lot. And so you can see you have a 360-degree view in all directions, and you're over 12,000 feet, so you can see the 14ers mountains sticking up. And so I thought I'd been doing fine. I got off the motorcycle, I walked across the parking lot, and I was so darn winded I could hardly breathe. The air was so thin up there. And it was really quite amazing. But it was I can say you could see 100 miles to the east across the Great Plains, and you could see a lot of the other mountain peaks sticking up, and off to the north and the south and the west. And it's just a really pretty place. If you ever get a chance, drive up there and take a look at it. So I wanted to tell you, it's 4 motorcycle stories. I didn't get a chance to tell you on the other video because I didn't want it to get too long. So once again, I'll let you go. I'm not sure exactly when I'll load this, whether I'll load it today or whether I'll wait till I get back from my doctor's appointment tomorrow. But I'll get it up at some point in time. So I really enjoyed my years riding motorcycle, and there's a couple reasons why I quit. And one of them was I went back to work, and I sold all my motorcycles except my Goldwing, my 1500, and I got to the point where I wasn't riding it. And then my current wife and I, we met, and we traveled together on that for a little bit. But then after a while, we got the RV and we got the big dog and all that kind of stuff. And the motorcycle just seemed like it just wasn't using it enough, and so I ended up selling it to one of the guys that had worked for me at the fire department, and he wanted it real bad, so I ended up selling it to him. But there was another thing that entered into the reason why I quit riding motorcycle, and that was I absolutely, totally hated helmets. I hated wearing a helmet. And in Arizona, of course, you don't have to wear a helmet, and so around town I didn't, but when I traveled, I did. And yeah, I was a firefighter medical guy. I know all the stories about, helmets protect you, and the other side says helmets don't, and I understand all that. And I've been to motorcycle accidents where the person probably would have survived if they was wearing a helmet. So I knew about all that. I knew the risks, but I just didn't like wearing helmets. And so I finally made the decision where if I want an open vehicle and I don't want to wear a helmet, then I probably won't buy another motorcycle. If I want anything like that, I'll get a sports car or something. But that's why I quit riding the motorcycles. I still have all my leather. I still have all my helmets. But right now, I think I'm probably getting a little bit old for that. Arizona's a big motorcycle state. And we're a big day destination for a lot of the riders out of the Phoenix area. And there'll be riding groups come in here almost every day in the summertime. And a lot of those guys are my age and still riding motorcycles, and more power to them. But I think that when you get to a certain age, I think you're probably better off not to do that anymore. Our balance isn't what it is, and our leg strength isn't what it is, and our reaction times aren't what they used to be. And at some point, you get to be a danger to yourself and others. So with that, I'll close this video out. I'll let you go. I'll bring it back in here so I give you one more look at this pretty golf course in the country we live in. And I'll tell you, take care of each other, love each other. It's a wonderful day. God gave us a wonderful place to live. And with that, I'll say peace out.